Hi, guys. I hope everybody's having a great day. Still a snow day here. We had a bunch of snow yesterday. For our first major snowfall of the year, we got about 8 inches of snow. And of course, it warmed up during the day, so most of it's melted. But then the temperature dropped last night. So now we have this white, crusty, crunchy stuff everywhere. And it is a little nippy. So winter is coming. We know that for sure. So I'm so glad that everybody joined me today. We're going to be doing this one, Country Kitchen in Red. I love this one. I haven't done a teacup in a while, so I thought it'd be fun to do one. And then incorporate these simple 5-petal flowers, a really simple strokework flower. And just enjoy the day because next week we're going to have a very, very busy day. We're going to be painting our 12 Days of Christmas project next Saturday, so I hope everybody's ready. All of the boxes are packed. The remaining orders will be going out Monday. They're just waiting to be picked up. And they're all going Purolator, so they should arrive by Friday. So everybody will have what they're supposed to have in time for Saturday. So we're excited about that. What excites us even more, if you look over my shoulder at the counter, this is just a few of the things that are going out as prizes for the 12 Days of Christmas. We have some incredible supporters for this channel, and not the least of which is Decort. Decort has provided us with some great goodies to give away. And of course, Dynasty Brush is incredibly generous as always. We have lots of Dynasty goodies as well. And then we have Tombow USA. We have some amazing stuff from Tombow USA you guys are going to absolutely love. We have watercolor pencils. We have colored pencils. We have so much stuff that we're going to be giving away 12 boxes full of crafting and creative goodness. In those boxes are going to be things from Sandy McTeer. We've got some fabulous laser cut items from Sandy McTeer. We have some incredible surfaces from one of my dearest friends, Sheila Landry at SheilaLandryDesigns.com and TollPaintingDesigns.com. She's got some wonderful things here too. Some of her beautiful original patterns as well. You guys are going to love that. And then I've got stuff from paintingwithdeb.com. She's got some really adorable wood surfaces back there and so much more. There is so much more. We have stencils from Southern Ridge Trading. We have laser cut chipboard items from Southern Ridge Trading. We have so many goodies to give away next Saturday. So please make sure you join us. I'm excited to see these boxes go out. So all you have to do to get your name on that wheel to get a chance to win one of those great gift boxes, there's 12 of them. Just like and share and hit all the buttons on this channel and subscribe if you would and join us. And then come and take part in the live class. Join us in the chat. Just have some fun with us. Be a part of this amazing community. They're just wonderful painters and wonderful people. So we have so much planned and I'm so excited. We're going to be painting that vintage Santa on a sled, a little wooden sled. I love this piece and we're going to have so much fun doing it. And we're going to be doing our fundraiser for our Feed the Puppers Fund at the same time. Now we've updated the little banner on the site. I don't know if you can see it, but it's up over $1,000 thanks to a couple of anonymous donations that hit us through PayPal. So we've upgraded there. And then this morning I received a very generous donation from a lovely lady in Ontario. I don't know that she wants me to give her name, but that also boosted it. I will be sending out thank yous to everybody who participate. On the day, December 7th, which is next Saturday, if you make a donation to our Feed the Puppers Fund, your name will go on a separate wheel and we will draw 12 names from that wheel and they will win an original signed piece of artwork. So that's what our plan is, to help generate some excitement about our Feed the Puppers Fund. So before we get started, I want to say hi to a few people. To Angie Hilton, hello. Glad to have you with us. And Robert Pearson, hello. Janet Cockram. Oh my goodness. And there's my favorite, Lucy. And Nancy Lewis, hello. It's cold in VA. Yeah, it's cold here today too. A little on the nippy side. And Janet Roach, hello, sweetheart. And Judy Thacker, you haven't received your Santa yet. It shipped on the 11th. Things are slow. Things are slow. Hopefully, with a little bit of luck, it should get there today. And Maria Santos, hello. And Cindy Brayton and Gail Jensen. Oh, goodness. I can't say hi to everybody, but I'm sure loving everybody on here. There's Robin R. and Noreen Sanderson. Hello. Bobby Corey and Karen Jones, my girl Karen from Alberta. They've also got a bunch of snow. And Nancy Focardi has been making blueberry muffins. She's killing me. Just killing me. Yeah, it's cold in Maine. Yep, it is. And Linda Safranco, and of course, mwah, big hugs and kisses to her lovely mom, Mary. All right, guys. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's here today. Hello, Phyllis Griffey. And Diane Watson. Hello, sweetheart. So nice to have you with us. Yes, our Diane. Our Diane. We have a couple of Dianes in Winnipeg. We have some really sweet friends in Winnipeg. Linda Giesbrecht, Diane. And Donna Pultz. Rich said he's looking forward to the Santa sled. He collects Santas. I didn't realize that. Wow. And who else is in here? It's 24 in Michigan and feels like 14. Brr.
That's Fahrenheit.
It's
Cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Do we still have snow? Yes, Mary, we do still have snow. It's very nippy this morning and the snow is crunchy. Yesterday it was very wet and heavy, and today it's frozen. So, yeah. Donna, we collect nutcrackers. So we have quite a collection of nutcrackers.
None of this wee stuff is nutcrackers.
Well, we have a collection of nutcrackers.
Your addiction to yourself.
We have nutcrackers. I think we've probably got somewhere around, maybe 100.
A battalion.
A battalion? Okay. We've got 100 or so anyway. And Gail Woolsey added to my collection today with 2 beautiful ornaments. So I can actually put those on my nutcracker tree. So I'm excited.
Is that what those are?
Yeah, they're nutcracker ornaments. They're really cute. I love them. I think they're awesome. They're going to go on the nutcracker tree.
Nice.
And Bonnie Clock. Hello, Bonnie. Oh, my goodness. All right, guys. It's so cool to see this. I mean, if you guys have been looking over my shoulder, there is a ton of goodies back there that are going into boxes this week for the 12 Days of Christmas live next Saturday. There are so many things. What angel?
The one at the top there.
Oh, that one. Yeah, okay.
You can see that?
All I can see is just part of it on the screen.
How did you know it was an angel? You can't even see the wings.
She's probably seen it before. The nutcrackers look like Renee and Tracy. Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's not a beautiful angel over my shoulder. The purple color. What angel? Oh, she's looking at the little angels. These little guys.
Oh.
Little joy angels.
Oh, those.
Margaret, the pattern for that is in the free download section in the RAK section on my website.
I thought they were talking about the Renaissance style angel that you painted there.
Oh, the one up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that one. I've painted that a few times.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite. It's from actually an angel from the painting Madonna on the Rocks. Of the Rocks. Sorry, not on the rocks. That's gin.
That's booze.
That's booze. No. The Madonna of the Rocks. It's painting by Michelangelo. It's absolutely exquisite. And that's part of it. Looks like a Deb Antonick. Oh! is a Deb Antonick. Yes, it is. That's it from Painting with Deb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I see it now.
Awesome. Jessica, I sound so much better. Thank you. I am feeling much better. I don't have that god awful wheezy thing going anymore, and I don't sound like Gravel Gertie anymore, which is always a plus. So, if you guys are ready to get started on our project for today, which is Country Kitchen in Red, so am I.
Hit the buttons.
There, I hit the buttons. So, the piece that we're doing today is the mate to the one we did last week. I love anything like this. This one is the Country Kitchen in Red. I had to do a teacup. I love teacups. I have, a minor obsession with teacups. And I thought that this would be a fun one. So we're going to be doing that one. Now, last week, the one we did was in blue. We did one in dark blue. And it was, crockery bowl with a wooden spoon. And it was just a fun piece. This one, we're doing a similar background. We're changing the color palette a little bit. Doing a similar background. This distressed, rustic country look. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch check stencil, which to me just screams country. Anytime you've got something like that. I love this country look. So I got my bottle of water today. Now the color I'm using for this background is cobblestone. And our base color for this is country red. This is perhaps my favorite red. I use this one a lot. And under all of these lights, it looks very orangey, like a scarlet, but it really isn't. It's a deeper red. I love this one. It is just that right, warm, slight brown, little rustic type red that works so well for this country look. Oh, Shannon, I'm so sorry. I know exactly what you're going through. I love Deckwords cobblestone. It's one of my favorite colors. Shannon, I had bronchitis in August, and it stuck with me through until well into October. And then I ended up with a bacterial infection, and it was just miserable. So I understand exactly what you mean. So we're going to stencil the background with cobblestone. What I love about this is that it doesn't have to be neat and tidy, doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to distress it anyway. So as long as it's reasonably tidy, it doesn't have to be perfect. I know days are so short. She was complaining about the days being short. I know, it just seems like we run out of time. There's not nearly enough hours in the day. Well, I hope you feel something. Take that medication. Do what the doctor tells you. Take your meds. Rest. I'm one to talk, really. I am notorious for, I got to do everything at Mach 5 with my hair on fire. So the idea of me, like, doing anything or not doing anything. I did, however, take time to rest the last few weeks, simply because I was exhausted all the time. So I took a little time to rest. I would work a little bit in the morning, and then I would take the afternoon and do little or nothing. And just take the time to rest and recuperate a little bit. Take my medication and do what the doctor told me. And it seemed to work. I still have a little post-nasal thing going, but that's, I have a spray for that. It's all good. Pardon me. Oh, You know what, Shannon? That's the one thing. You got a lot of stuff to do. And oddly enough, even if you take the time to rest, it'll all still be there. I have a hard time when stuff needs doing. I got to get up and get it done. But I make a lousy patient. I know that. But there comes a point where you just have to look after yourself. Because if you push too hard, then you won't get anything accomplished. So, I'm learning it slowly but surely. What stencil brush am I using? I'm using a 1/2" Dynasty Stencil Pro. This is one of the synthetics. I love these. They work incredibly well. So I just continue until I have the whole surface covered with this checkerboard pattern. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're going to distress this anyway, so putting it on so that you get this absolutely perfect and fully opaque coverage is counterproductive. Oh, you're going to Cambria. Oh, wonderful. Well, rest now so you can enjoy Cambria. The brushes. No, I don't carry them myself. We simply can't carry everything. These are available from the Brush Guys at thebrushguys.com. And they have we do have a coupon code for you. It's Tracy M, capital TRACY, capital M. So Tracy M, they'll give you an additional discount. Sandy McTeer also stocks them. She has them available on her website, so you can get them there as well. Same coupon code. Miss Sandy is generous. So there we go. You're welcome. Happy to help. So we've got checkerboard. I love this gray. Someone asked me recently why I chose to use cobblestone instead of, say, white. And that's a really simple answer. When you use white on a color like this, the contrast is very sharp. Very, very sharp. So if you start out with white on the background, it's very hard to tone it down. And in a case like this, we want to tone this down. So I'm making it a little bit easier and going with a gray, which is a little more subdued. And it still gives us the contrast. We still get that nice pattern, but it's a little easier to mute it in the end. So I'm going to use one of my little sanders, and I'm going to pretty aggressively sand this surface. I'm going in one direction. And, oops, we're going to wear through the paint in a few places to distress those checks. I love that they're a little distressed. Doesn't seem like it right yet, but it will. So, wear through, and don't be afraid to wear through them. You can't really do this too much. So I flipped this over. This is like a 200 on one side and a 180 on the other. Well spotted, Diane. Yes, it is a nail buffer. It's got a coarse file on one side and a fine one on the other. Ideal for sanding this type of thing. So, the other nice thing is the size. It fits nicely in the hand. It makes it easier to work with. You can distress corners and edges very easily. Just like that. So, we're going to take a piece of shop towel. I'm going to moisten that with a little bit of clean water. And I'm going to wipe away the dust. And you can see that I've worn down a lot of those checks. So they're a little less fully opaque. They're a little distressed. I love that look. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Taking that dust off does make a big difference to this in the end. So I'm going to dry this real good. And Lori Fuller, hello. Good morning to you too. And it's snowing in Michigan. You guys are getting some lake effect from what I hear. And Ramona, hello. Good morning. There we go. So, nice and dry. Now, I've got a little bit of soft black. I love this color with red. I love this color with a lot of rustic type looks for a couple of different reasons. That soft black already has a bit of red in it, and so it works really well with this type of tone. So I'm going to use a little bit of soft black on one of my high-tech applicators, and I'm going to, in a circular fashion, just apply a little of that soft black to the outside edge. Now, I do this in a circular fashion and then go back over it in the other direction because it allows me to redistribute that color. And it's a soft touch. I'm not scrubbing the kitchen floor. I'm washing the baby's face. That's what I'm doing. Nice, light touch. And you see how it provides a really nice dark value at the edge. And it gives you that nice distressed look. And it's soft on one side and a little darker at the other. So you can dry this. And then you can come back and do it again until you get the darkness that you want. So Liz is playing, she is, Liz is taking a broom making class. That's interesting. Broom making. What a cool idea. So, second coat. Oh, I love how that just gets this nice deep dark. I like it darker in the corners. It just implies a little bit of age, but it also leaves this area open. And so we get this nice lighter value in the center, which supports the design element that we're going to put in there. Helps draw attention to it. I love that. And I'm going to deepen this corner a little more. And then I think I'm good. I think I'm happy with that. So we've got nice dark at the outside edges, and then we've got this nice brighter section in the center. So we're going to dry that, and then we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum to just tone everything. And it'll give everything that nice antique look. And Billy, hello Billy. And Diana Irvin, hello. Sunny but chilly North Carolina. I think everything on the East Coast is a little chilly. I read something today about New York declaring a state of emergency because of weather. So I've thinned out a little bit of asphaltum, and I'm going to apply horizontally, just like that. Heavily thinned asphaltum. And it's just going to tone this whole thing. And I'm following. Remember, I sanded in one direction. I'm applying this in one direction as well. Same direction, I might add. So that little bit of asphaltum, it just brings everything into balance. So we've got a nice warm tone everywhere. It takes the brightness, the boldness out, but we still have that nice warm aged look. Linda Deming, hello. So we're going to dry this. Goodness. So once this is completely dry, you are ready to trace and transfer your line drawing on. Super simple. What's for dinner tonight? We're having burgers. I've got some nice Angus beef. I'm going to make some burgers tonight. We forgave, we decided not to have pizza. Pizza's our usual Friday night food. Anyway, I did not want pizza, so I made steak last night. So tonight we're going to, take care of my husband's craving for junk food. So I'm making burgers. And thank you, Diane. I am feeling lots better. So there is our surface already prepped. The fun part about this is you can do this to a whole stack of these. I have a bunch of them already done. And then you have backgrounds ready for a whole bunch of country kitchen or farmhouse style pieces with minimal effort. You just have to choose your color palette. And I really like this size, this 8x10 art panels. These are 1/8 or 1/8 hardboard. And I usually will mix, when I do my base color, I mix a little bit of all-purpose sealer in with my base color and then give them a light sanding before I do my stenciling. And then I have prepped surfaces for a whole bunch of different designs. I will do different colors, like the blue and the red, primarily because they're my favorite colors. That for anything country, I gravitate towards those reds and those dark blues. But you could do this with a nice dark green. You could do this with almost any color, really. It also looks really good with a dark yellow, like an ochre color. They look great. And so I have surfaces prepped for any number of things that I want to do. This also works for holiday designs, not just, kitchen designs or country farmhouse designs, but it's versatile and you can use it for a bunch of different things. So the piece we're doing today has, my favorite black and white teacup in it. I really love that black and white teacup. The reason I love it is because I actually have a black and white teacup like this. And it was my grandmother's, and it really appeals to me. It stays in my favorite china cabinet. So I have my line drawing already traced and transferred on. I did forget to trace the B, so I'm going to leave my line drawing in place for now. So this teacup has, I just love that it's got that basic black and white stripe. So we're going to use a little bit of warm white and base coat every other stripe. So the outside, 2 outside stripes and the one in the center are going to be warm white. If you want to do them the opposite, feel free. You don't have to do it exactly the way I did. It will work either way. So I'm going to grab a filbert. And the one I'm using is number 4. And we're going to base coat our teacup. Now, when it comes to stuff like this, I prefer to do the things that are furthest away from you first. And in this case, it's this teacup, the stripes in this teacup. So now I'm doing the white stripes first for a reason. It's frustrating. when you're painting something, especially something that is black and white, to get white on the black and vice versa. I have found over the years that if I paint the white first, I have fewer issues than if I paint the black first. And it's easier to cover the white with black than it is to cover black with white. So, hence the reason I do all the white bits first. And I'm going to paint around that tag. And even though it's also painted with warm white, there is a method to my madness. Which will be revealed momentarily. We're going to be putting a 1/8 polka dot stencil on these white stripes. And again, it's easier to paint over some of these things with black than it is with white. So I don't want to make it any more difficult than it needs to be. The other nice thing is that you don't really have to be too careful with all of this white at this point. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this teacup. I have 2 teacups here that I have to paint. And I have a little tea container that I'm very excited about painting. And I love these little country flowers. I call the little 5-petal flowers. They aren't anything in particular. They're nothing, not meant to be any particular flower, but they work so well with a variety of things. They're a very simple floral. I missed a petal, I just realized. Here we go. It's easy to fix. Keep things simple, it's easy to fix. That's one good thing to live by. Debbie, I'm using a number 4 filbert to base coat this. Easy peasy. Now, it will probably take 2 coats of white to fill this well, which is okay. I just want to get fairly uniform coverage. Doesn't have to be perfect, but fairly uniform. Just so long as it's uniform, it's less important for it to be opaque. There we go. Easy peasy. I have done so many of these teacups in the last few years. I do love teacups. I just think they're delicate and feminine and pretty. And you can fill them with things. One of the things that I have done when we've had guests is use them as soup bowls. So if we're doing, a large dinner, I have enough of them that I can fill them as soup bowls for about 35 people if I really wanted to. But it's a nice 3/4 to a half cup serving of whatever soup you're making if you're having a dinner party. So it's a smaller serving, And it looks so pretty to have a different teacup on everybody's place setting. It just makes for a very lovely table. So I've used them for that purpose. I have used them for tea and scones. When I was working with the Military Wives Association and would host a tea, we would break out all my teacups. At one point, I think I had about 100 of them. I think I've downsized that collection considerably and kept most of just my grandmother's teacups. But I've always found them a nice way to entertain. There's something about having tea in a beautiful porcelain cup. Yes, I do have a teacup collection. My grandmother had a massive china cabinet. And it was in the dining room, and she had her collection of teacups and saucers in that cabinet. And over the years, especially when I was a child, I loved looking at them. They were so pretty and so elegant. And when my grandmother passed, she left them all to me, which was a lot of teacups. And as I said, I've kept my grandmother's, so I still have many, many, many of them in my china cabinet. And one of my favorites is this little, very chintz teacup. I have a beautiful chintz teacup, and it appeals to me on a lot of levels. And it has this look, the black and white stripes with the polka dots, and the inside of the cup has the chintz. So it's very pretty. So I'm going to base coat the rest of the teacup with lamp black. And I like to do, as I said, I like to do the white first because it's easier to cover white with black than it is to cover black with white. Yes, it is. My grandmother was an amazing lady. A woman that I had an immense amount of respect for. She raised children during the Great Depression. She ran a farm. All through the Second World War. And she raised her boys during the Second World War. And after the war, they still had the farm. And then in the 1960s, my grandmother went back to school and became a school teacher. And she graduated the same day as her youngest son. Graduated from university the same day as her youngest child. So, she was not a girl. She was, by that time, was in her late 50s when she decided to go back to school, which was no small feat in the 60s and in the 70s. So, yeah. Well, not to mention my grandmother was an amazing cook. I have a great many of my grandmother's recipes. I have a great many of my mother's recipes as well. My mother was also an amazing cook. So I think I was, I want to say about 11 or 12 years old when my grandmother graduated from university. So, yes, I had excellent role models. There we go. So it looks a little rocky. It will for a little bit. We're going to dry this real quick. Pardon me. Now I gotta find my polka dot stencil. There we are. So we're gonna use a 1/8 polka dot stencil. And one of the things that irritates me when I'm doing this is getting paint where I don't want it. So I'm going to use a piece of masking tape to black out the handle because I don't want to get black polka dots on my white handle. And I'm going to position my stencil so that I can put a nice arrangement. I'll move it so that I can get as many dots onto a stripe as I can. And I'm going to use black, lamp black, to stencil polka dots onto that white stripe. And I'm going to do the same to this area here. I'm just trying to avoid putting dots where I don't need them. So I've got polka dots on those two stripes. And I'm going to take that piece of tape and I'm going to bring it over here and mask off this side so I don't get polka dots all over my background. And again, I'm going to arrange my stencil so that I get as many polka dots on that white stripe as I can. There we go. So we have polka dots on our teacup. So now that I have that done, I'm going to finish painting the stripe on my, or not the stripe, I'm going to finish painting the saucer here. I avoided doing it first because I have a tendency to put my hand in the paint. And I needed a nice narrow space between these two elements. So I'm just using a rigger to carefully fill in the saucer. There we go. Easy peasy. There we go. And then I'm going to Put another coat on the footer, the foot of this teacup. There we go. My handle was looking a little wanting, so a little more white. It's looking just a little streaky. I just wasn't happy with that. So here we go. So I'm going to dry this really well. I like those little mini stencils, Nancy, because they can get into small areas. It makes them easy to control. There we go. So we're going to start by shading the teacup, because I want to make everything else a little simpler. But before I do that, I want to put a little highlight into my background back here. I'm going to use an angled shader if I can find a clean one. I seriously need to wash some paintbrushes. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white and a lot of water or glaze. I want to really heavily thin this. I just want to put a little wash of white back here, just to create a little highlight in behind this teacup. And I'm just going to bring it down to that little horizon. It's just enough to lighten the background back there, and it isn't a big dramatic highlight. It's quite soft. So just a little bit of heavily thinned warm white. It is not a neat and tidy at all. Just like that. That little highlight back there is just going to push this forward a little bit. It'll be subtle, especially once we have the rest of this painted. So I've got a nice little angled shader. I'm going to grab a 3/8 angle. I'm using a Dynasty Faux Squirrel in a 3/8 angle. These are probably my favorite brushes ever. I'm going to give that a good soak for a second. And we're going to use asphaltum to shade our teacup. So thin it out a little bit. Doesn't need to be full strength. And we're going to float up underneath the flowers, like so. Does not have to be one of those perfect little floats. We need it darker under the flower and let it get a little lighter as it goes down, because it's a shadow. Like that. Little shadow underneath the lip. There's a lip on the teacup. We're going to put a little shadow in there. And I'm going to do the same thing across the bottom. I like that little shadow at the base of that white. And we're going to do the same thing around that tag. Just needs a little shadow. And right across the top, above the saucer, or I should say across the top, across the bottom of the foot of that teacup, above the saucer. And then underneath the flower and on this end of the saucer. Now I like to walk this shadow in. So bring it in almost to the edge of that foot. So that we have an open area in the middle of the saucer for the highlight. We'll get a nice little shadow where the handle joins, like that. So asphaltum is a versatile color. It's great for shading and developing depth in things, and it's a great toning color, which is primarily what I use it for. Aw. I don't have grandchildren. I have a grandpuppy. Or Miss Maze.
It dropped YouTube again, eh?
Did it? Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to go back over these and deepen them just a little. And then I'm going to dry this really well. There we go. So I'm going to grab my little filbert again and a little bit of warm whites. And this is where we come back in and base coat the tag. I like doing the tag after the fact. It just comes up so much nicer. Not only that, but it gives us nice crisp edges. And it's so much simpler than trying to shade and not hit the white. And I love teacups. Now, you could put whatever you want on that tag. I actually took an old stencil with some sort of script on it and just sort of made it look like something was written on it, but nothing legible. But honestly, you could do whatever you want. If you want to use a stamp, you can do that. If you want to use a stencil, or if you want to write something of your own on there, that's entirely up to you. I just kind of like the indistinguishable thing for this particular piece because there's a lot of words. Why am I using a flat for base coating instead, or a filbert? I really like filberts for base coating. I will use rounds or flats, but I like filberts, but that comes down to having worked in the commercial painting. I like to turn a filbert on its side because I can get a nice crisp edge with it. So I'm not using the filbert flat. I turn it on its side. And so I can get nice crisp edges. It's just habit. You get used to using them after a while. So I'm going to dry this. Pardon me. Now there's a string that holds the tag to the teacup. I'm going to grab my script liner, my extra long detail liner, I should say. So I'm using a little bit of thinned lamp black to stroke in the string. But it's casting a shadow onto the background, so I'm going to use a little bit of thin asphaltum. And I'm going to come just to the right of that line and stroke in a little shadow for the string. And it stops at the top of the tag. And then I'm going to take my rigger and we're going to put a shadow. It's a drop shadow. So we're going to start about 1/8 of an inch down from the corner of the tag. And I'm just going to stroke in a shadow like that. So it's about 1/8 of an inch down from the top of the tag. So that little shadow casts onto the teacup. Details matter. My goodness, Yvonne, it must be early. Oh my goodness, it's 4 a.m. for Yvonne Clapham. And it's tomorrow already. There we go. Love it. So we're going to use a little bit of titanium white or warm white, and we're going to put a nice bright highlight right here. Nice crisp white highlight right across the edge of the teacup. This is your chance to clean up any little wobbles or bobbles. A little highlight on the inside of the handle. Again, this is where you get to clean up a few of those little wobbles and bobbles. And a little highlight right here. I like to put a little highlight on that outside edge. Now, for the tag, I'm going to take some thin asphaltum to the outside edge of the tag. I like to leave a little space. Doesn't have to be perfect, but a little space. Just to go around the outside edge. This is going to age our tag a little. You note it left that little sliver of white around the outside edge. There we go. And we are ready to start working on those flowers. So the leaves for this piece are done with lush green. You can use antique green or lush green. I love both of those greens. One is just slightly more opaque than the other, just slightly. So you can decide for yourself which one you prefer. It's a toss up, whichever one happens to be close at hand. For me, I like both of them very much. And I tend to gravitate towards these two greens more often than not. And we're only using one coat because, quite honestly, I don't think we need more than that. But this is where you get to clean up all of those little edges. And this teacup stops looking quite so messy because you're going to create a very distinct line. Et voila. And I love this green because it is very forgiving. So we do those leaves first before we do the flowers, because then we can overlap the leaves easily with the flowers. Yes. What's a good color to replace Hauser Light? I tend to use matcha green personally. That I like that it has that, a fair amount of white in it, so it covers quite well. That tends to be my go-to if I need to replace that. It's not a perfect match, but it is the one that I tend to gravitate to. Matcha green is a great color. You're welcome. And Miss Deb Bloomfield, I hope you're feeling better, sweetie. Our Miss Deb had surgery recently, so she's on the road to recovery. And I didn't talk about giveaways today. I was so busy talking about giveaways for next Saturday that I forgot to mention what we have this week. We have Tombow goodies and Dynasty brushes. We have wonderful, wonderful brushes. We have Water Lily and Dynasty Micron. So there's some nice little brush sets to give away this week, along with some great Tombow goodies, those limited edition mechanical pencils. We have those in there. Plus, we stuff them all into one of those little create bags. So we have some really nice little goodies for you guys this week. I think we try to have fun little goodies every week, but I think we've done well this week. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Now, shading for this, I love using either black green or plantation pine. Plantation pine is a bit more transparent, but it's a nice rich green and it looks so lovely. I do like my plantation pine. And I've been using black green quite a bit lately. But another color that I have sort of suddenly developed a love for is this one. This is Black Forest Green. Very much like plantation pine, it is a bit on the transparent side, but this one has a nice vibrancy to it. It has a little bit of phthalo in it, so it has this nice, rich, bright tone to it. So if you're not a fan of plantation pine and you're not a fan of black green, grab a bottle of this and try that out. I love the tone of it, so I wanted to show you guys what that's going to look like. It is a nice, deep, rich green. It's a very pretty color, and it works really well with this. It is, even though it's not a high yellow green like the antique green, it has a really nice, rich phthalo tone to it. So there's a vibrancy to this darker green value. So when you shade with it, it has really nice richness. It's a surprising green. And I'm going to use a smaller brush because that did not work well. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. It is a beautiful green. And it has that nice, look at that. It's a nice rich green. So if you find yourself needing to shade leaves and you don't have a black green or a midnight green or a nice rich one, grab some black forest green. I think you'd be very surprised at how rich it is and how nicely it shades a variety of greens. Not just, the deeper, darker greens. It shades a variety of greens very, very nicely. It's a nice rich color. It changes the tone a little bit, but it has a really nice payoff. And the payoff is that you keep that rich, lovely green. And it is such a pretty, pretty tone. Almost jewel-like. It is a very jewel-like green. It looks fabulous over top of things like emerald or paradise green. There's a little bit of blue in it. So it just has this wonderful tropical feel to it, which works really well for this antique green. So even though it is not a super opaque green, look at that. It looks great over top of that antique green. I'm a firm believer that you got to reach into your paint box every once in a while and grab something that you haven't used before. Or if you have used it, you haven't used it much. Because every once in a while, you need to change things up a little. And lately, I've been looking for nice rich tones to shade with. And this one has really become a favorite because of that little bit of blue in there. It just gives everything a nice vibrancy. So I've put that first shading in up underneath everything. I'm going to rinse out my brush. Agreed. It does, Patrick. It does have that sort of geranium leaf green to it. It's a nice tone. So I'm going to dry this real quick. And then we're going to paint down the center leaf or center vein of each of the leaves. Give us that nice shading. Then I want you to see what that higher yellow green with that dark black forest is going to look like. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous combination. It creates some really nice, look at that. Gives you some really nice contrast and lots of depth. Look at it. So pretty. It's a nice rich green, works really, really well. So putting this over top of antique green, put it over top of avocado is another color it works exceptionally well with. So if you find yourself stuck, you don't have a great color for shading, go and have a look at some of these more blue greens because they are phenomenal. I love this black forest green. It's just such a pretty tone. Look at that. So pretty. And it gives that green a nice punch. So I'm going to dry this. Now I've got Margarita, which tends to be my go-to for highlighting greens because I really like that higher yellow tone. And the Margarita has just enough transparency that you can play with a little, but enough opacity that you still get that bright punch. But what if we changed it up a little bit? What if... Let's go with Sprout. Now these two are a little bit different. You see, Sprout has a much higher yellow content. I want to try it, see how it looks. I like Sprout for certain things, and I do like it with antique green. But the Sprout has a little more white in it. Might be a bit much. Oh no, it's lovely. So I'm using a float of Sprout. Ooh, I like it. Nice little shot of a brighter yellow. Works well with that Black Forest green. Nice. I'm a big fan. I like the brighter yellows at the points and edges of leaves. I find it just gives them a little more pizzazz, a little bit of zing. And who doesn't like a little bit of zing? Hoopla. Yeah, I tend to agree. I have a tendency to get, I have what I call my comfort colors, antique green being one of them. I call them comfort colors because I'm comfortable with them. I know what I can pair them with. I'm at ease using them. And I really don't have to think about it for me a lot of the time. So I gravitate to it. And let's face it, it makes things simple when you don't have to choose from 500 colors. However, every once in a while, I get bored. Not too often, but every once in a while, I get bored with the same color palette all the time. And that's usually when I will go into my paint cabinet and I will choose a color that is completely left of center because I want to try something different, get out of my own comfort zone and get out of my own head. So I think it's important every once in a while to just not use what you always use, and for the same reasons. To sort of think outside the box and see what else you can do with what you've got. I mean, most of us painters have hundreds of bottles of paint. I know I do. And so I have a tendency to get very used to using the same 25 colors all the time. I love my country red. I love my thing. So one of the things, the benefits to new colors being introduced every year is that it gives me an opportunity to, again, step outside of my own comfort zone and play with a color that I'm perhaps not so comfortable with. And the nice part about that is that you learn, a lot of the time, you will learn something completely new. And one of my favorites this year has been tea berry. Tea berry is just this really unique pinkish coral. It's hard to describe. It's not a pink, it's not a coral, it's sort of somewhere in between. And it's a lovely tone, and it's just so pretty. And when I started playing with that color, I found that it was so versatile. You could do so much with it. So I've got that pretty green. Highlighted my leaves with it. That Sprout is so pretty. So now that I've got that highlight color on, I'm going to come back in with that Black Forest green, and I'm going to deepen the center veins just to clean up, and it just gives them a little more definition, smooths out areas where perhaps the yellow subdued something. You know, that little bit of Sprout may have subdued one of the colors or softened a border between colors. So just go back in, deepen some of the center veins and some of the shadows with a float of that Black forest green. Oof, so pretty. Oh, wow. So this is, Patrick, you raise an interesting point. Um, for people who are colorblind, it must be incredibly frustrating because you were never quite sure if the color you chose is appropriate to the one that you have chosen to pair it with. So I can understand that. Black forest green works well with sprout. Black forest green works well with margarita. It also works well with blue greens and teals because it is in that same family. It has a higher, there is a high blue content in this. And when you look at it, it has that sort of phthalo undertone. So there's an amount of blue in this. And so you can pair this with things like mermaid tail or any of the teals, and they'll also work. So now we've come to that fun part for me. I love this part. I'm going to be using a number 5 round. I'm using a Dynasty Black Gold. You can use a really pretty, neat, and perfect one, or you can use a beat up one. It doesn't matter. For this, we're going to be doing a series of comma strokes. 3 of them, to be exact. I'm going to clean up my painting palette here. We're going to use warm white. I love this. This is just perhaps one of my favorite flowers because I love the way they're painted. And because of the way they're painted, you don't have to base coat, which I like. And then the petals maintain this really nice translucent quality. So I'm using a little bit of Jo Sonja's in my paint and a number 5 round. And we're going to do each of these petals in 3 strokes. So essentially it's a comma stroke, but not a perfect one. So I start at the outside of each petal and put a comma stroke down, like so. Kind of looks like a deer print. And then one straight down the center. So this is what you get. It looks kind of sloppy. That's okay. Comma stroke, one down the center. And it just comes to the center. You don't have to make them perfect. They do not need to be perfect. In fact, they're more interesting if they're not. The only thing I really pay attention to is how well they overlap the leaves that we're painting over. Super simple. Now, these ones are in behind this one, so I'm going to start with that one first. Comma stroke, center. Comma stroke, center. These are so easy to paint. And they look really nice when they're done. And quite honestly, I like painting these with one of those not so pretty round brushes because then you get some interesting textures. You know, the odd bristle that sticks out. You get some fun little textures and interest in these flowers. So super easy. I love the imperfections in these. I think that those little wonky bits in these flowers appeal to me. They're less than perfect, and yet they're so pretty. So then I come back to this one because it overlaps that one in the background. I'm going to put a stroke there and a stroke there. They're pretty and they're simple. Et voilà. Now, when you look at these, you can see each stroke, but they're not perfect strokes. The paint is a little transparent in some places, a little less so in others, and those brush marks that you see become part of the flower. So don't knock yourself out trying to get them absolutely smooth, because it really doesn't matter. Part of what you're doing is going to create the look of these flowers. Now, everything that comes after is what's going to really build up these flowers. So, but they do need to be completely dry before we do anything else. I love the brush marks in these. I just love how simple these little flowers are, and they are so versatile. They look so pretty when you pair them with a bunch of different things. I've used this flower for a lot of this farmhouse designs. They're just simple, easy, that you can paint them any color. They look great in yellow. They look wonderful in blue. They're just such a simple and elegant and easy piece. So I'll make sure that those are dry. We're going to add a center to these flowers. So I'm just going to paint a very simple white dot in the middle of these flowers. Doesn't have to be perfect. Does not have to completely overlap the petals either. It's just a base for the yellow that we're going to put in there. Now you can use Sunny Day, or you can use Baby Duck. Any nice pale yellow will work just fine. So just make sure they're good and dry. And I'm going to grab, that's not, et voila. So I'm using a little bit of Sunny Day. Sunny Day and Baby Duck tend to be my go-to yellows. Both of them are really pretty. And I love Sunny Day because it's just a little more vibrant. Linda Giesbrecht. So we're going to take a little bit of Sunny Day, and we're going to paint those centers like so. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't even have to be opaque. I put that white down just so that it covered a little bit better. That's all. I love this. I just think that this is a pretty piece. So we're going to build up our petals. We're going to build up our centers a little bit. The color we're going to use for this is tea berry. I love this color. Margot. So tea berry. I love this tone. I just think it's so, so pretty. And it does interesting things when you put it over top of other colors. It's just enough transparency to do some really cool things with. So I'm going to start with a float of tea berry at the base of each of these petals surrounding that center. Just a little U-shaped float. That's a little strong. Okay, that's a little bit better. Not quite so strong. So little U-shaped float right at the base of each of those petals where it joins the center of the flower. Just like that. The first one was a little strong. It's getting a little easier. There we go. So it's going to look a little bit wonky. That's all right. So just around the center. Doesn't have to be perfect. I love this color. It's just so pretty. So each of those petals gets that little U-shaped float. Yes, I know it's going to look a little wonky around the middle, and that's okay. By the time we get finished, it won't matter. Look at that. So each of those flowers gets that same treatment. We're going to make these flowers look like the petals have a little curve, almost a little cup to them. And we're going to do that with a little bit of white. That little bit of white is going to create a lot of texture on these petals. It will quite be a little surprising, I think. So there's that little float of tea berry. So, so pretty. It's just, and that tea berry actually works really well with that country red. Look at that. And then while you have that tea berry out, you're going to pick it up and we're going to put a float along the bottom of the center, just about halfway, right on that yellow. It creates a really nice orangey tone and it makes that yellow look very fiery. It's a great color over yellow. Bye, Deb. Bye, Lucy. So dry that real quick. And then I'm going to deepen it a little. I want just a little more heat. I'm just going to deepen that float a little bit. Oh, yummy. I firmly believe that if one float is good, then two is better. There we go. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. So my centers now have all the heat that I want. So rinse out my brush. I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to take a little bit of white. You can use titanium white or you can use warm white. Either one will work just fine for this. This is going to create some interesting texture on these leaves, and I'm going to bring it up close so you can see what I'm doing. I'm using my extra long detail liner, a little bit of thinned warm white, because that's what I have on the palette. I'm going to bring this up to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So right here, I'm going to put a little comma stroke. Do you see it? And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Do you see what it does? It creates like a little cup in the petal. And then I'm going to use that liner to create a scribbly line at the outside edge of the petal. And I'm going to do that to each petal. There. And then out here, little scribbly line. So that little comma stroke right there helps create that turnover, like a little flip, as if that flower has got a little bend. Just like that. I like that little comma stroke. It makes a world of difference to how those flowers look. So all of a sudden those flowers now have a little more depth. It just gives the petal that little bend. What color could we sub for tea berry? Watermelon slice. It's a little bit darker, but it has that same transparency. And it will work very nicely for this particular thing. Now, I like that little comma stroke, but I love those little squigglies out past the edge of the leaves. It just gives the petals a little softness. And it makes the flowers look a little softer, a little more lacy and a little more delicate. Comma stroke. Don't forget. And if you're not comfortable doing that squiggly line with the brush, grab your white gel pen and do it with that. It's just a fine little squiggly. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be on the petal. It can go off the petal. It's fine. Just like that. None of these things have to be perfect or even all that accurate, to be honest. So all of a sudden, look at those flowers. Now they've got even more shape. I love this look. I love that little highlight in that turnover just gives those petals a little more oomph. Don't be shy. It's there. Look how pretty. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this next step. I'm going to dry this really well because it's me and I will put my fingers in it because that's how I roll. I'm going to find my gel pen. Maybe. I can find a gel pen. Okay, that one will do. Whoa. So I'm using my black gel pen. And I like doing this. You're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to put a squiggly line all the way around the centers of my flowers. Squiggly. Don't have to be neat. Don't have to be tidy. Squiggly line. All the way around. Neatness doesn't count. I need my other gel pen. I don't like this one. Here we go. Okay, that's better. It's funny how I have some that just, they don't like paint. These ones do. There we go. So, squiggly line all the way around the centers of my flowers. And then I'm going to put a series of little lines like this. One long one, and then say 2 or 3 on either side. Just gives the flower a little more texture. And I like that little bit of darker value towards the center. Da, da, da. Hello. What was that? That came from upstairs.
I hope so.
How we doing?
Good.
Oh, got a question about 12 Days of Christmas.
Where?
Robin Harkless.
Hi. Do I need to purchase Zoom class to participate? No, absolutely not. You just show up on the day.
It'll be on Facebook and YouTube.
It will be on Facebook and YouTube, just like we do every Saturday. You do not need to purchase anything other than surface or stencils or whatever you need to paint the piece. But that's about it. You do not have to purchase a class. Just come and join us. So you could see it's sketchy lines. Little details around the center. Nothing fancy. Not even neat and tidy, really. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Sketchy line around my tag, because I like the sketchy lines. Just like so.
Nancy, what is the 12 Days of Christmas? Must have missed something.
12 Days of Christmas, we do it every year. We call it the 12 Days of Christmas because we usually have a lot of prizes to give away, and we do this year. Tons and tons. And we teach a class. We have a bunch of laps. And we have a lot of drawings. And in this year, we have 12 gift boxes to give away, and they are filled with goodies from all of the people that help support this channel. People like Decawart and Dynasty Brush and Tombow USA and paintingwithdeb.com and Sandy McTeer Designs and tollpaintingdesigns.com and Sheila Landry, and the list goes on and on. We have so many goodies to give away, but we also use that day as the fundraiser for our Feed the Puppers Fund. And so we take donations on that day, and we have a lot of fun and lots of laughs, and we just paint and play and have a great day. So again, the sketchy line, I like to bring it into the teacup too. Easy peasy. Do the same thing to the handle. And when I say sketchy, it's not a straight line. It's not neat and tidy. It's not even pretty. It's just, just a line. And I'm kind of partial to the little stitch marks, so I'll put a sketchy line and then a couple little hash marks so that it kind of looks like stitches. Does not need to be perfect. I like a squiggly line. What can I say? So I'm going to dry that so I don't want the ink to smear. Giving me away my paint stuff would be like taking a limb off my body. I don't know. What is this? Open stock Posca pens were $5.99 Canadian each, so you don't want to buy a whole set. You can just go buy one or two for not too much. That's awesome, Brenda. Michael's had some really great deals this week. I bought a bunch of frames, the ones that I framed these pieces with. They had a buy one get two free deal, so you only needed to put 3 in. So I bought as many as they'd let me. Hi, Claudia and my pal Julie. Hello, sweetheart. Watching from Southern Oregon. I'm so glad you came to watch. So that's dry enough. Now, the fun part about this, we're at that stage now where we can tweak a couple of things. So I'm going to tweak a couple of things. So a little bit of asphaltum on an angled shader. And we're going to, remember what we did with the tag? We got that nice pronounced shadow there. We're going to do the same thing here underneath our flower. I'm just going to put a little bit of asphaltum under, just a little, more of a stripe, less of a float, if that makes any sense. Just to lift it off the surface a little bit more. So I get to tweak some shadows. I also want to tweak a shadow here. Little bit of thinned asphaltum. See where this flower overlaps? I want to put a little shadow there, just to push this flower forward a little bit. And I'm going to dry that and do it again because it's not quite dark enough. Spent my time organizing my studio. I got news for you. It's a constant. Organizing your studio space is a constant. I am constantly doing stuff to keep mine organized. I dislike not knowing where I can find things. Okay, so we've got our flower shaded. So we're going to put a few finishing touches in on the leaves and the flowers. And I'm going to take my extra long detail liner and I'm going to use a little bit of Sprout. I'm going to mix a little bit of warm white with it. Just a little. Not because I necessarily want it lighter, but I do want it a little bit more opaque. So a little bit Joe Sonia's in there so it runs smooth. And we're going to do the curlicue. I'm a fan of the curlicue. And we're going to put the stems on our little leaves. Easy peasy. Curlicue. And then we're going to use this to just gently and delicately outline some of our leaves. Again, remember I said the squiggly line that I put around things? I do the same thing to the leaves. I just find it pushes the leaves forward a little bit, and at the same time, it makes them appear a little softer. I like the softness. I like leaves, little leaves and vines and tendrils to look delicate. And having that little outline just makes them look a little softer, a little less hard-edged. And it gives them a nice shape. I like the little delicate bits. Those little things appeal to me in a great many ways. Easy, easy, easy. And then we're going to put a little bit of soft black on our palette. So I'm going to dry that. So I've got my rigger. I'm going to use a little bit of asphaltum on my rigger. And we're going to add dip dots to the bottom of our flower. Make sure you bring them out past the edge and onto the petals. Just a few, you don't need a ton of them. Wherever the shading color is, you're going to put a few little dip dots of asphaltum. I have too much water in my brush, so my asphaltum is just puddling. There we go. That's better. And they're kind of random. You don't want to have them stop. Do I know if Decorart's going to have some new colors this year? Decorart's going to have some very cool things coming. So we have some nifty new things coming up. Okay. So I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to use a little bit of warm white just to give us some nice bright centers with a little bit of texture. So, nice little dip dots of warm white. Again, make sure you bring a couple of them past the edge of the petal, or out onto the edges of the petals a little bit. I just find it makes the centers look a little softer and a little fluffier. And again, just keep them random. I try to avoid straight lines whenever possible when it comes to things like this. Awesome sauce. Now, this little tag down here, they came out with stained glass colors, but when it comes to new colors for the Americana line, they're working on something special because there's an anniversary coming up for Decorart. So there's going to be some cool things to look forward to. So I was trying to think of what to do for this tag. I didn't want to stamp a word onto it because it would become part of the wording on this. So I was a little reluctant to just put a word in, but you certainly could. So my thinking was I was going to grab either a stamp that's not quite legible or a stencil that is not quite legible. And so I have a bunch of those kicking around. And this is one of my favorite. I have these on the website and I love this stencil. Bet you can't guess why. I love this one for a couple of reasons. This one has, why can I get that out of there? Oh, okay, there. I love this stencil for a couple of reasons. Most of this, 90% of it is illegible. You can't actually read it. So this was my thinking was to use a little bit of asphaltum and just faintly put that in there. And that actually worked really well. So I took a little tiny bit of asphaltum on my stencil brush and I just very lightly and very quickly stenciled some of that illegible lettering onto the tag and just left it. You could put a postage stamp on there. I think that would be really cool. A cancellation stamp, because you know me, I like my cancellation stamps. But just something that is not necessarily legible. A stamp would be pretty. I really like the postage stamp idea. I think that would be really pretty. But there's almost anything you could put in there. If you wanted to, you could just put a little drawing of a flower or whatever you wanted. There's so many cool things that you could do in there. But I really kind of liked just having that illegible lettering in there. I just thought it would be pretty. So I like this idea of that imperfect looking text in there. I think that really works well. And it's just such a fun way to sort of fill up a little bit of negative space. So we've got, something there, but nobody's really sure what it is. So any type of stamp or stencil, a monogram would be pretty. No, this isn't a new one. I've had it for a while. It is in the new stencils because it has been a couple of months, I suppose. But I really like this one because it has those cancellation stamps in it. If you were watching when we did the phone stand with the grapes, this is the one that we used for the background. Really a fun stencil. And I find myself using it a lot. So we're going to use a little bit of soft black. And we're also going to use a little bit of Joe Sonia's and a 3/8 angled shader. I like this angler. I use the stencil for backgrounds on a bunch of things. I really love that type of stencil where it's, you can't really read it, so you could use it for anything. When is the 12 Days of Christmas? Next Saturday, December 7th. So we're going to shade our lettering. Need a stencil suggestion for background for frogs? Frogs. Polka dots always work. I love polka dots. So I'm using a float of soft black on the background to the right of each of these letters, paying particular attention to the vertical. Inside the big C. So thin out some soft black, little float of it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like doing this first because then when I paint the lettering, it's just so much simpler. You don't have to worry about floats, your shadows going over top of all of the lighter colors. It just makes life a little easier. So to the right and on the background for each of those letters. And I'm going to do the same for the ones up top. To the right. And by doing this first, you don't really have to worry about if you overlap the other letters. Doesn't matter if it goes over top of the vertical or if it extends past. Pardon me. It just makes things a little more forgiving. Easy peasy. I like soft black on this. It's a nice shadow. What is the cost? There is no cost. If you want to paint along, the pattern is available on the site, but there's no cost for the class. You can just join us. That's all you have to do. And we have oodles of giveaways. 12 of them to be exact. Be a nice little Christmas present to get with some of the goodies that we have collected over the past year from suppliers and from supporters. It's just, we have so many goodies. Okay, so we have nice little float. As you can see, not perfect. Doesn't need to be. The stencil is called, just give me a second. I'm trying to remember, and I'm, okay. Categories, new stencils, and it's on sale. It's called Script with Cancellation Stamps. It currently says they're out of stock. They are not. Just give me a few minutes to sort that out. we just got them in and we obviously haven't had a chance to update the site. So still got this one to shade. It'll take me 2 seconds to update this, so bear with me. Let's see. Gail, we have been shipping constantly. We haven't, the last of them are leaving Monday. You can't see the stack, but there's a massive pile of boxes here waiting for pickup on Monday. So some of you may be looking for your shipments, and they will get there. We've been shipping through Purolator and UPS, and for the first week it was not really a big deal, but because of this postal strike here, and then with the holidays, I think the postal strike has put an additional burden on the shipping companies, and so we have been trying so hard to keep things moving, and unfortunately everything seems to be backlogging. So we're trying as hard as we can to keep things moving as fast out of here as quickly as possible. And sometimes it takes us a bit to update the shipping notifications. So your order may have shipped, but you haven't received a notification yet. So it takes us a little while because we're working on 2 separate systems. So, okay. Website is updated. Ooh, walk to the other side of my house away from the wood stove. I love winter. I can't wait to I just love it when it's cold enough to put a fire in the wood stove. The whole house gets so toasty. I love it. So we have one more word here, the word country, to shade. And again, I'm doing that with soft black. So nice little shadow on the background to the right. Don't forget to do all the verticals. Like so. That little shading, although it may not look like much, that little shading makes a world of difference as to how the lettering stands out. And it does amazing things. So I'm just going to make sure there we go. So we have the word country. Now I think you guys figured this out already. I have really fallen in love with my Posca pens. These have been like a major favorite. I have 3 complete sets. I love every one of them. And I use them all for various things. These 0.7 tend to be my favorite. I like the finer one when I'm working on things like this. When I'm working on larger canvases, I like the big 1 millimeter. I love how it looks. It just works so well. So I'm going to use the 0.7 because it's the ideal size. Yes, there is a coupon code, and your coupon code is, oh, you know what? My brain shut off. Can't remember. But yes, we do have one. And hang on 1 second and I will tell you. I have a list. It stays on my phone. And yes, you do have a coupon code. If I can find it. Holiday. Nope, that's not it.
You're looking for it.
Boo 24. Believe it or not. Boo 24.
Boo.
I was looking for a coupon code. Boo 24. BOO 24. So I'm using that 0.7 Posca pen to do the lettering for the word country. And this one is a pretty simple because it's just a handwritten script. You know, it's a very simple one. So we got the word country. And then we're going to use the rigor. I'm using a 0. No, sorry, it's a number 2. We're using a number 2 rigor to paint in this lettering here. And I'm using warm white. And you're going to need some Joe Sonia's Fast Dry Glaze or some good clean water. We want this paint to move smoothly off the brush. Now, when you press down on a rigger, you get a nice chisel edge, just like that. And so, all you have to do is just press down, fill the space, and then you can turn that chisel edge on its side to do that fine line. And it's the same going out. Just like that. Press it flat, fill the space. Chisel edge will give you a nice clean line. Just like that. Easy peasy. Now, when it comes to doing lettering with a rigger, a little practice and you will be off to the races. It's an easy brush to control. The hardest part is getting the paint thinned to the thickness or the consistency that you need. That is where you need to work. The brush itself is an easy one to control. So press it down to get that chisel edge. Press down till it fills that space. The brush will open up and then draw it up to release. Easy peasy. I have loved this brush from the first time I picked one up. And then turn it on its chisel edge to do that fine line in between. Just like that. So those verticals are going to be easy. Easy peasy. What's up? I can't see that. What is it?
Computer.
Oh, okay.
So what it has in it, Ryzen 7, or sorry, Ryzen 9, 6th generation, 32 gigs of RAM, and a terabyte of
Wow.
storage. See the price?
No. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, a couple of spots I want to brighten up right there. There's a T, cross on my T, and it's just not showing up that well, so I'm going to brighten it a little. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to go up top, and I'm going to use both my brush and a Posca pen. Hello, English is a second language today.
You got there. It's all good.
I get there eventually.
Sometimes it's not about the destination.
It's all about the journey. In my case, it's in one great big circle. I haven't done anything Christmas-wise, decorative, but as far as decorating goes. So I'm going to use that same rigger, and we're going to paint the verticals. I love this font. This one is actually a tattoo font. The one that's up top here. And I just thought that it worked so well for this. I love that it kind of has that vintage vibe that I like. And so all of the verticals, diagonals, obviously, are going to be painted with that warm white. And take your time with this part. That little bit of soft black that we shaded back there, it's going to give us a really nice contrast so that those colors pop up. What is this? Swiss dotted blouse and a pair of black overalls. Oh, how pretty. I have a blouse Swiss dot that I love, but mine is blue, not white. Oh, I've got too much paint in my brush and too much liquid, and I made a mess. But it's okay because I will clean it up. This is a pretty piece. Anything you put a teacup in, I like. And I've been wanting to do more teacups because I just like them. I think they're pretty. And I kind of have this thing about putting stuff in stuff. I kind of like, I have to put stuff in stuff. So whether it's a tin can or whatever, there's just something about putting flowers in something that wasn't really designed to hold flowers that appeals to me. My father was very much a person that liked to reuse things. And when we were growing up, my father discovered ways of, instead of throwing things in the garbage or taking them out to the dump, he found ways to put them to use. So everything from old tires to, old bathtubs and old wash basins and feed bins and things like that always ended up with, even the old acetylene tanks, the old propane tanks that he had, they all got cut in half and turned into planters, or he always managed to make them into something pretty. Even the fence around our property when I was growing up was made out of old wagon wheels. It didn't have a fence in the traditional sense. It was, all along the front of our property. My dad had old wagon wheels and flowers planted in there. So I kind of like the idea of having things in things. So that's why I put Christmas flowers in, rusty enamelware cups and flowers in big old enamelware pitchers and African violets in teacups. I like those little containers. There's something charming about them. So I'm going to dry this really well. And then we're going to take that white Posca pen and we're going to just quickly finish that lettering off. I'm a fan. I like my Posca pens. I do, however, have one that likes to vomit on everything that I use it on, because I press too hard and all of a sudden it just releases paint everywhere. So I can't really blame the pen because I press too hard. So I'm using that white Posca pen. It's a 7.7 millimeter to finish off those little lines and little details on this lettering. And this is the O that I kind of messed up because I had too much paint in my brush. So I can fix it a little bit with that Posca pen. I've become a huge fan of these Posca pens. They're just fun to use and super simple. And because they're acrylic paint, I can do all sorts of stuff over top of them without any issues. And that makes a big difference. At least it does to me. And the fact that they're available in so many different colors makes them versatile in the extreme. And they're made by one of my favorite. I'm not surprised that I like them because I've been using Uniball gel pens for years. And Posca pens are made by the same company. So I'm not surprised to discover that they have great quality. So look at that, our lettering. So I need to dry this really well because the next step, we're going to put a little color. What size rigger was that again? I'm using a number 2. I love this whole series, this Farmhouse and Farm Fresh series. I like them all. There's just something about each one of these pieces that just really appeals to me. So I'm going to grab my favorite eraser because I need to clean up a few little odds and sods. We do have some graphite lines to get rid of. And I love my black erasers. The Tombow Black, Soft Black, and the Factus Black 18. These are both my favorites. So I'm going to get rid of that graphite line. It just makes the lettering so much cleaner when you get rid of all of the graphite first before we do this next step. I just like to have all of that. I'll just make sure everything's dry so I don't end up smearing paint. Get rid of the graphite lines. Muy importante as far as I'm concerned. There we go. So I'm going to use my 1 inch, my 1/2 inch angle and a little bit of soft black because I just realized that I forgot to put the shading on the tabletop. So right below that highlight that we did in the background, we're going to put a float of soft black in behind that teacup, just so that it defines that tabletop. There we go. And it's just a float, just so that we have a little contrast in there. That's it. Super simple. So I like to shade the bottom of my lettering. It's a thing. I like that shadow. How long does it take the pen to dry? It just a few minutes. It is acrylic, so it dries fairly quickly. So I'm using a 3/8 angled shader and a little bit of Bahama blue. So I love this. I like, on white lettering, I like a little bit of blue. So a little bit of Bahama blue. I need to make sure that and I put a little float of it at the bottom of each letter. Just like that. It's a tiny little float, doesn't have to be perfect. It just changes how the lettering looks, gives it a little more weight. Instead of making it look flat, having that little bit of blue at the bottom of the lettering just seems to give the lettering a little bit of gravitas, weighs it down, gives it a little more substance. And I don't often bring that shadow any further than halfway up. I like that little shadow. It just gives the lettering a little bit of weight. So it doesn't feel like it's just floating there. So that little bit of blue, and it comes about halfway up the letter. It just gives that lettering a little bit more visual weight. Now, you can deepen that with a little bit of asphaltum if you want to. In this particular case, I'm not going to. I like the cooler aspect of that blue, so I'm going to keep it. Now, we've only got a couple more little things to do, and one of them is to spatter this. I'm going to take this off so I can spatter it. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to use my favorite fugly brush, and I'm going to thin out a little bit of asphaltum, and I'm just going to lightly spatter the surface with a little bit of asphaltum, and that includes the lettering. Just a light spatter, and then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to repeat that with a little bit of thinned warm white. I'm more of a fan. Oh, I forgot about the bee. Oops. A little bit of thinned warm white. Now I'm going to dry this.
Patrick's got a question for you.
Hi, Patrick. Yes, absolutely. A little Prussian blue would work too. Yep. You could absolutely shade the bottom of the lettering with Prussian blue. I didn't paint the bee. There is. I forgot to trace it on.
Oh,
That's why. It slipped my mind. But that's okay. It's a bee.
you could freehand that.
I can freehand the bee and just annoy everybody. So I'm going to make sure that that's dry. Where is my chalk pencil? So
Bring it down a little bit.
I'm just going to quickly draw in my bee. So my bee is quite simple. So bee wing, like so. Oops. There. A bee. These little guys are really easy to paint. If I were to use a yellow or ochre background color, do you have any suggestions? One of my favorite yellows for that type, this vintage look, is this. Deep ochre. I love this yellow, and it pairs up so nicely. So if you were doing these as a series, you could use this yellow. It's called Deep Ochre. It's a deep golden yellow, and it almost has a brown tone. It's a nice, warm, rich. It's a great yellow for that type of background. And then I would still use the same cobblestone and whatnot for it. It's a great color for that. So, Bumblebee. Super easy. We're going to paint his butt with warm white. He is a fuzzy butt bumblebee, so he's going to be warm white. And then I'm going to paint the wings the same color. A little bit of warm white.
What do we put on the tag?
The tag, I used a stencil to put some simple nondescript lettering in there. But you could use whatever you want, really. You could leave it blank and just texture it. You could put a monogram in.
I don't think they can see the nondescript.
Yeah. So it looks like there's something written there, but it isn't legible. There's so much lettering in this piece, putting more there would have been distracting. So our fuzzy butt bumblebee needs a yellow. Make sure that's dry. And then I paint over that white with Sunny Day, the same yellow that we used for the center of the flowers. And in fact, we're going to use all of the colors that we used in here in our bee. Is that the updated dollar amount for the puppers? Yes, it is. We updated it this morning.
Just before we went live, we updated it.
Yep.
And obviously somebody's added to it. Pretty sure that does not say what I put in. Nope. That's $25 more.
It is, yes. So the head and the body, or the thorax, this is base coated with black. And I'm using little dip dots to make the legs. Da, 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 da. Oh, nice.
I haven't updated it with the PayPal stuff on the website yet.
No. Yep. Hey, beep. Oh. There we go. Make sure that that's good and dry.
Oh, excuse me.
Now I'm going to shade our fuzzy butt bumblebee with tea berry. Just like that on one side. Like so. And we're going to shade the wings with a little bit of that Bahama blue, that same blue that we used in the lettering. Close to the body, but on the wing. There we go. And we're going to put a little highlight on the head and the thorax of the bee with a little float of warm white. If I can actually get some paint in the brush. There we go. It's a little highlight. Just like that. Easy peasy. Nothing dramatic. Just a nice little one. So I'm going to take that extra long detail liner and we're going to give our fuzzy butt bumblebee a fuzzy butt. So he's going to get a series of little lines like so. Just like that. Makes our bee look a little fuzzy. And he needs stripes. So this is where I bring my gel pen in. So I'm going to put scribbly line around the wings of my bee. Just like I put scribbly lines on everything, really. And we're going to do the same thing around the fuzzy butt. Little dots on that shaded area. Et voilà. And then he just needs a little highlight. I always think you've got to have a little highlight. So bring a little of that warm white in. Little stroke on the head and thorax, just to give it a nice shape. And there is your bee. Fun little piece. Country kitchen. Make sure everything is good and dry. Now you can seal this with a couple of light coats of DecoArt matte spray. And I like matte spray for this type of thing because I've incorporated so many different things. Because I have ink in here, I have paint pens in here, I have acrylic paint in here, and then I have paint that's heavily thinned as well. So I always like to use a matte spray just to seal everything in place before I varnish. It just gives you a nice uniform surface to work over. So there is our farmhouse country kitchen. Fun piece. It's an easy paint. You can take your time. We did it in a couple of hours here today, but you can take your time and do this over a couple of weeks, and you'll have a really fun piece to hang in your kitchen or in your dining room. Mine hang in my kitchen on either side of my giant clock. So they look great framed. I love them framed. I just think they make for such a neat art piece that you can hang in your home. And not only that, they make great gifts. If you've got family or friends that would like to have a piece of your artwork, but they're not into tchotchkes or little things that hang on the front door, maybe an art piece like this might be just the ticket. So these are a project that works up very fast and makes a wonderful gift, especially for the holidays. Now, next week when we do the drawings for the Pupper Fund, anybody that makes a donation to the Pupper Fund, your name goes on the wheel. We're going to spin that wheel 12 times. And each one of those winners are going to receive one of these finished pieces. And they will be signed and framed, and we will ship them to you. So.
It's only the Farm Fresh series?
Oh, no, we've got a bunch.
Oh, you got a bunch?
I have 12 framed finished pieces that we're giving away.
Originals?
Originals, yes. So I'm really excited about it. So keep in mind, I know it's the holiday season. I know that times are a little difficult for a lot of people. So every donation counts. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. Every donation counts, and it goes to help us feed the puppers so that they can get their forever homes. So just keep that in mind. You're going to make somebody very, very happy. And if you want to use your winnings as a gift, by all means, be happy to see it go to somebody who'll love it. So Renee's got the wheel all set up. We have a whole bunch of names on there today. Holy cow. How many names are on there?
There's 150 or so.
Nice. Awesome, considering that this is a Thanksgiving weekend. You know? Awesome. thanks so much for joining us, you guys. So Renee is going to hit the wheel. And I'm going to tell you once again, the giveaways for this week are some wonderful things from Tombow and a beautiful brush set from Dynasty Brush. We have Dynasty Water Lily and Dynasty Micron. Awesome. What? Yes, I had it all ready for you. Stickers and everything.
First winner.
The first winner is Karen Jones. Awesome. I think it's been a very long time since Karen's won
No
something.
kidding.
That's awesome.
Well, we know where that's going.
Yeah, I don't need her address. I know where she lives. That sounds vaguely threatening, doesn't it?
It sounds threatening and very ominous.
And our second one is going to...
I've known her my whole life.
Yeah, yes, you have. Denise Chavez. Awesome.
Yay.
I have Denise's address too. Yeah. Karen, I can't believe it. I think that it's been probably a couple of years since Karen's won anything in the draws, and she watches every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jessica made it through an entire Saturday. Congratulations, Jess.
Through an entire Saturday. She's not busy enough.
She's not busy enough, if that's the case.
On a Thanksgiving weekend, she's not busy?
I know.
How?
I don't know. Eventually, I hope she gets the little goodie I sent her. Eventually. But I think it may have gotten stuck in the postal strike, so too bad. And the last one goes to Joan Gal.
Joan Gal.
Yep. Joan, I may or may not, I'm not sure, have your shipping information, but please go to the website, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and send us your shipping information so that we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible.
That's a name I don't recognize.
Yeah.
Joan Gal. There.
It just means that it's never popped up, and we haven't, there's so many people on here. Awesome. I'm watching, there's the chat window is just flying by at this moment. Especially Karen. Judy Thacker knows what it's like to have that long drought. Excellent. Everybody, thank you so much. I know that with the Thanksgiving holiday in the U.S. yesterday having been Black Friday, and it is a long weekend for our friends in the U.S. So we know that you are spending time with your family and the people that you love, and we love the fact that you came to watch us today. So thank you so much. Everybody have a safe weekend and enjoy the holiday and your time with family and getting ready for the holidays. I am so excited about next Saturday. I cannot wait to get started. We are going to have so many goodies to give away and promote the Feed the Puppers Fund. So come and join in the fun. I think we're going to have a blast. And thank you for joining us today. We so appreciate it. Everybody, we love you. Mwah. Stay safe.
Pet your dog.
Pet your dog.
And don't drink and drive.
Oh, even more important.
Yes.
Don't drink and drive and pet your dog.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Where's the button?
I don't know. You're the keeper of the button. God knows you press my buttons.
Rude.
Are we still live?
Yes.
Of course we are.
I was going to say something else.
What were you going
I
to say?
lost it.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't drink and drive and pet your dog.